Welcome back. Okay, so let us discuss the New York Rangers today as I continue to look at teams from around the National Hockey League. I've talked about San Jose, I've talked about Edmonton. Now we're going to talk about the Rangers as I continue to just randomly pick teams. And the New York Rangers, I felt would be an interesting one to talk about because look, 2023-2024, they won the President's Trophy, 55-23-4 record. Their power play, 26.4%. Their penalty kill, 84.5%. They scored 278 goals. They allowed 226, and they looked really strong. And then this past season, it all kind of fell apart. So the question becomes, is this team ready to turn things around? Will there be more changes then before the season starts? Or are we going to see a similar season from the Rangers this coming year? So looking at their roster, and the first thing that comes to my attention on this is the amount of cap space. There isn't any at this point in time. $777,976. Ranger fans have been very vocal about wanting to see Zibanejad's contract get moved. The tricky part is Zibanejad's contract runs until 2030, and the cap hits $8.5 million. I don't see a team taking on that contract unless they're throwing in a sweetener, and they're not going to want to throw in next year's first-round draft pick, maybe a 2027 first-round draft pick. But either way, the New York Rangers are kind of in tight against the cap, and you can make the argument about whether or not you think this team is better than the one from last season. It is weird not to have Kreider amongst the forward group. Kreider, of course, being moved to the Anaheim Ducks. But while that created cap space, they've since swallowed up with new contracts. There is definitely a question mark about this team's depth. And we talk about it all the time, but it is a noteworthy conversation to have. Although, if a couple of young players step in, if a couple other players are able to elevate their game, maybe it'll be fine. So, again, if you're a glass half full fan, you're going to say things are good. If you're a glass half empty fan, you're going to say not so much. Artemi Panarin's one to watch this coming season. He's in the final year of a contract. The cap hits $11.64 million. He had a good year. 37 goals, 52 assists, 89 points in 80 games. Those are good totals. But in the event that the Rangers get off to another slow start, if it looks like they're going to miss the playoffs, what do you do with Panarin? And at what point in time would the Rangers look to perhaps, decide, well, we're not going to make it this year, and we want to have a really good shot at McKenna. So we'll see what the Rangers do there. Now, Vinny Trocheck, I think, is the next captain of this team. He played 82 games this past season, 26 goals, 33 assists, 59 points. And while there were a lot of discussions about, internal struggles in the locker room and certain players not liking management, Trocheck was very diplomatic the whole way through and honestly just came off as the captain for the team. And whether he is or isn't going to be the next captain, I'd be very surprised personally if he's not, but if he's not, he will still be a very outspoken public face of this team. I don't think Trocheck's going anywhere. I know I've seen comments of, well, my team might take on Zibanejad if they could get Trocheck too, and I'm thinking that if Chris Drury hears the name Vinny Trocheck in a trade call, he would cut that call off right there and say Trocheck's not available. Lafreniere, there's been discussions with him, right? $7.45 million cap hit until 2032. He did not take that next step this year as expected. 17 goals, 28 assists, 45 points in 82 games. And I think now that we're 5 years past him being drafted first overall, there is a valid question to be asked about what the ceiling really is going to be for Lafreniere and whether or not he's ever going to live up to that contract. Even though it's still a relatively young contract, we are 5 years out from his draft year, and there's definitely going to be some discussion, I would think, continuing around Lafreniere's long-term future, and is that with the Rangers? And if so, what does the rest of the roster end up looking like? Then you got Will Cooley, 82 games, 20 goals, 25 assists, 45 points. A very hard worker, got a much earned bridge deal from the New York Rangers, and in a couple of years, he may make a lot more money. I could see Cooley jumping up to 25 goals this year. I think there could be an outside shot at 30 goals. He's a really hard worker, and he's got pretty good hands as well. And then there's JT Miller, right? So he's got an $8 million cap hit until 2030, a contract that was very talked about at the time it was signed with Vancouver, and it's worthy of talking about again. He is in his 30s. After the trade to the Rangers, he played 32 games, had 13 goals, 22 assists, 35 points. He is a point-per-game player. Didn't really turn things around for the New York Rangers after getting there. It is more than just JT Miller that's needed to turn this around, and maybe a Zibanejad trade does happen. As I mentioned, he has an $8.5 million cap hit until 2030, and Zibanejad is in that top 6 because, really, while there's a couple of potentials, if they do trade Zibanejad out, they're going to need a top 6 forward back in the deal. Gabe Perreault may end up becoming that top 6 forward. He played 5 games after signing with the team. No points for Gabe in his first abbreviated season, so he's still eligible for the Calder this season. And there are pretty high expectations around Perreault's game. And if he's able to live up to those expectations, it could really help to ease the pressure on that top 6. Parssinen played 11 games with the Rangers this past season. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points for him. Brodzinski, one of the hardest workers in the NHL. 51 games, 12 goals, 7 assists, 19 points. And another example of players that have been in the AHL for a while that when they get a shot at an NHL job, they end up playing pretty well because they understand you can't take anything for granted, that this could be over. And if before that it's over, you want to go out there and show what you can do on NHL ice. Edstrom played 51 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points for him. Sam Carrick played 80 games, 6 goals, 14 assists, 20 points. And Taylor Radish added to the team, 82 games, 7 goals, 20 assists, 27 points in the season we just had. Radish being added from the Capitals, and we'll see what he can do for them. Now, I'll get into the depth in a bit, but I wanted to talk about their blue line before we get there. Gavrikov added to a contract, so he is in there. Keandre Miller is out. 82 games for Gavrikov, 5 goals, 25 assists, 30 points. And Gavrikov is being expected to have another season like the one he just had with the Kings. Forgot to put on the exits. I got to put Keandre Miller down there. I have to. It's going to drive me nuts now that I've seen it. But yeah, so Gavrikov is being counted upon to do a lot. And Adam Fox already does a lot. He has a $9.5 million cap hit till 2029. I think that's a cap hit that's a bargain because 74 games, 10 goals, 51 assists, 61 points. And Adam Fox is a very good two-way defenseman. Maybe a little bit underrated at this point in time. He doesn't get mentioned amongst the absolute upper echelon at all times, and I think he does deserve to have that kind of consideration. But that's an argument for another time, too. Soucy, after arriving with the Rangers, clearly fit in better than he did in Vancouver. 16 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, but his game's not about points, and I think he gave the Rangers decent depth on the blue line with his addition. Will Borgen, 51 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. They seem to be happy with Borgen. Vakanainen, 46 games, 2 goals, 13 assists, 15 points. And Schneider, 80 games, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points. I do think this blue line could use another point producer. I will say that. They could use another point producer on that blue line. I don't think this is how this team ends up looking by the time we get to the fall. The expectation is we will see trades during this summer. I think we're going to see substantial trades during this summer, to be honest. Now, since the Rangers are already up against the cap, there's 2 ways they can approach this. Either it's dollar in, dollar out, or they dump a contract off somewhere so they have more money so they can make further trades. Now, looking at their depth, you have Justin Dowling, who's simply a depth forward. Scott Morrow, brought in from Carolina in the Keandre Miller deal. I don't know if Morrow gets into this lineup right away. I don't know if this ends up being the top 6 or if Morrow jumps in. One thing is getting Morrow for Keandre Miller. There'll be some pressure on him a little bit. And the offense, there should be some offense from the blue line from Morrow when he gets into the lineup as well. So maybe he helps to fill that void when it comes to offensively minded defensemen at least a little bit. But I still think a veteran player who can score some points would help. But they don't have room for Erik Karlsson, not cap-wise. Terrance, of course, was acquired in a trade. There's some depth with him. Berard played 35 games, had 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. I do expect Brett Berard to get into the lineup. Othman, 22 games and just the 2 assists. I don't know if Othman's ever going to realize the potential he had when he was drafted, but he's still got enough tools in the toolbox that Othman could become a bottom 6 forward for them this year as well. Pouliot, defenseman, veteran, been around forever. He's been added as depth on the blue line. Matt Rempe, the much talked about Matt Rempe, 42 games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points for Rempe, and maybe he ends up playing a little more in the top 12, but honestly, we're going to see injuries anyways. Teams are always dealing with injuries, and so Rempe and Berard If they're injury fill-ins, they'll probably still play about half the season. They've also added Fix Wolanski to their depth up front. So there's some depth there, but I don't know how scared I'd be of this team over an 82-game schedule. And then you got the goaltending. And the goaltending's going to tell the story here, too. Igor Shesterkin's $11.5 million contract, at least the cap hits $11.5 million until 2033, generates a ton of conversation. And his numbers weren't great. 27, 29, and 5 with a .905 save percentage. But according to Money Puck, he saved 21.6 goals above expected. So he had very good numbers from an analytical perspective, though the standard statistics will lead to a lot of people saying he's not worth that amount of money. Jonathan Quick, 11-7-2 record, .893 save percentage. His goals saved above expected are underwater. Negative 5.4 for Jonathan Quick. So Shesterkin, the better of the two goaltenders from an analytical perspective, and then just from a standard statistics perspective. Although if you look at their win-loss record, Quick was better there. I do expect another strong season from Igor Shesterkin. I do think that the New York Rangers could have a bounce-back season, but in order to do so, I think more moves need to be made. While Kreider and Miller are gone, and that'll change things up at least a little bit, I don't know that enough change has been made, because this is a team that from February 1st until the end of the season, they went 15, 14, and 3. 107 goals scored, 103 goals against. They were 13.9% on the power play, 74.4% on the penalty kill. So they didn't finish the season all that strong. They had a rough go of it after what was a decent start. And I think there needs to be some more moves made, and I would expect that to happen over the next 5 or 6 weeks. I guess the question I would have for Ranger fans is simple. So let's just say you trade out Zibanejad. What are you looking to get back? Because you have to get back a top 6 forward. So maybe it's 2 separate deals. Maybe you find a way to get rid of Zibanejad's money, and then you take the cap space, and even if you retain, say, $2 million, but you're able to trade $6.5 million to another team, you have gained yourself enough cap space to maybe make an addition or make another trade. It is going to be interesting to see what they do. It doesn't feel like they want to miss the playoffs again. It feels like they want to get back above the playoff line. I can't see them picking up Gavrikov on that deal if they didn't intend to really tighten up defensively and bank on some kind of a bounce back this coming season. But I do feel like there needs to be a little bit more oomph up front. Maybe Perreault provides that. Maybe Othman comes out of nowhere, scores some goals early in the season, gets his confidence up, and all of a sudden we have a growing concern when it comes to the Rangers. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.